Welcome to today's webinar, which is part of the Resilient Kids and Youth Project. My name is Andy Gore, and today I'm joined by one of our Outback Futures team members, Margot Moody. Margot, welcome.
Thanks, Andy. It's good to be here.
It's great to be here today talking about this topic, and I'm really excited about it, and it's a really appropriate time of year to be talking about this. So, Margot, what is the topic we're talking about today?
So today we're talking about 4 ways to start the school year strong.
And Margot, that's a really important topic. So share with us a little bit of why it's so important. Help us understand, why is this so important to start the school year strong?
Yeah, for sure. So the start of the school year can often bring a lot of change and adjustment, particularly for kids starting school the first time or maybe going to boarding school for the first time. And we know particularly during the holidays, our routines and structure go out the window, and it can be really tricky to get back into that routine of school. So it's important to start the year well to help kids stay resilient for whatever the school year might bring them, and also establish some certainty and security when they're getting used to being back at school.
Yeah, you can just imagine all the teachers and the parents right now cheering, saying, yes, this is what I need. My kid needs some of these strategies. How can we do this? So, Margot, let's jump straight into it and share some of these practical strategies. Margot, why don't you lead off and share what our first strategy is today?
Yep. So the first thing you can do is to try and figure out some sort of routines that will help with your family. So that can be anything around bedtime routine, after school routine, getting ready for school, chores, sort of anything that's going to help your family adjust to the school year smoothly. And try and get your family involved in this as well. Get them to think about what their routine looks like to help them develop that sense of independence and ownership over their routine. For younger kids, you can do this as well by making it really visual and fun, get them to create a routine as well. And also really important for distance heads kids, they might not be in that structure of being in the classroom, but it's still really important to have some sort of routine around their day, say lunch breaks or finish times, so that they can adjust to being back at school as well, and also help them if they ever have to go away to school. They sort of know what that routine might look like as well.
That's great, Margot. And I can imagine with such a long break, you can start to form habits over time, and kids get creating new routines in their holiday times. And so I wonder, how can parents help their kids who might be struggling or rejecting jumping back into routine? What are some ways that we could help them?
Yeah, so firstly, it's very normal to not get into the routine straight away. I don't know about you, Andy, but after 3 weeks of holiday, I really struggled to get back into the swing of even work. So remember, it's an adjustment for them after the holidays. Try and be patient with everyone being back on a bit of a schedule again. After a couple of weeks, if they're still kind of testing it a little bit, try to chat to them and find out what's not working for them. And get them involved in tweaking the routine so it'll work for both of you. So say, for example, if you're really wanting them to get into their homework as soon as they get back from school, maybe they need to run around and kick the footy first. So try and find ways that's going to let them do their homework, but also make sure they have that run around.
Yeah, that definitely helped me as a kid as I reflect upon my childhood years. So that's the first one, find a routine. Margaret, what's the second strategy today?
Yep. So the second one is try to connect with your child's teacher early in the year, or your children's teacher. So if you've got any goals or concerns for your child for the year, chat to the teacher about, how they can integrate that into the classroom, but also any ways you can support with their learning at home. So, for example, if your child needs, say, extra reading support, what's the best way to address this? And talking to the teacher early in the year is really helpful as well, so they can put in some strategies straight away, start as they mean to go on, rather than waiting till the end of the term or even the next term, where it's a lot harder to change behaviours and habits. Also particularly relevant if you've got kids in boarding school, because it can be a bit harder sometimes to connect with teachers as regularly. So if you're, at the school, you can chat to them in person and get things sorted straight away.
That's great. Relationship counts so much, doesn't it? Particularly with those people and teachers that are spending so much time with our kids. So that's really great. Connecting early with teachers. Margot, share with us, what's another way? What's another strategy that parents can assist their kids to start the school year strong?
Yep. So another way is to try and encourage your child to set some goals for the year. So research actually shows that kids who engage in goal setting are more motivated and likely to take their goals seriously. It also helps build on some of that resilience skills we've been talking with kids about, developing some independence and self-efficacy to really take responsibility for their learning in the year. And these goals can be anything. They can be learning-based, they can be skills-based, sports-based, whatever's most relevant for your kids. So have a chat to them about what they're working on, what they want their year to look like, what they want to achieve, and come talk together about some steps they can take to achieve their goals.
And goals can be really hard to help people and particularly children focus on. And so, Margot, what's some ways that, a parent can actually best support their kid with their goals?
So be mindful of what's achievable and realistic for your kids. So say, for example, for a younger kid, a goal for them might be as simple as starting to collect the eggs from the chooks every day. Another way you can support your kids is to actually set your own goals for the year. So not only is it good to set goals, we know that, but also sets a good example for your kids to follow through their own goals. And you can even get creative with them and try and come up with some goals together. And I've got a really good example of this when I was a kid. And I wasn't particularly sporty or coordinated. And I decided when I was a kid, I wanted to get better at catching. And my dad, who's a bit of an avid cricket nut, decided the best way for me to do this was to get out the cricket bat every afternoon and hit some tennis balls around. So we came up with a bit of a goal to do that after school, most days of the week for about a year. And it was really good because I actually got pretty good at catching balls. And my dad, as a busy grazier, could take time out of his day, play a bit of cricket, have a bit of fun, and bond together a little bit. So really good example of ways you can work on goals together with your kids and make a bit of time together as well.
Wow, that's great. And I wonder who enjoyed that time more, Margot. So we've got find a routine, connect with teachers, help your kids set some goals. What's our fourth way today?
Yep. So fourth and final one is to ease into the next couple of weeks. So really try and be kind to yourself as you get back to being in the school routine. The kids get back into being in the school routine. We know going back to school, get back to work after a really long break can be quite tiring for kids, particularly if they're starting school for the first time or at a new school or doing something new. So try not to overschedule for those first couple of weeks back. Allow time to relax into the routine, settle into the year, have some time for play just to kind of get all that holiday out of your system. Also be mindful of your own attitudes and feelings. So kids are really good at picking up our attitudes to things. So, for example, if you're really anxious about your kid going back to school, they might pick up on this and start to feel anxious too. And again, this is particularly relevant for our boarding school kids where there is often a bit of anxiety about leaving home and returning to the boarding house or starting back at boarding for the first time. And often there's a lot of anxiety for parents and kids alike. So if you're in that situation, be mindful of your own anxiety about it. And instead try and highlight some of the positives of returning to school, seeing friends again, learning new things, all those sorts of exciting things that come with being back at school.
And so, easing in, that can be really hard depending on people's past experiences too, Margot, with school. So what if somebody had a difficult end of the year last year and, there maybe a little bit of trying time in the classroom? How can parents really help their kids to really make that transition well, considering maybe the struggles that they faced at the end of a previous schooling year?
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Andy, because it is often a big case for lots of kids where maybe it was a bit of a rough end of the year. Often we're really tired at the end of the year as well. So things can seem a lot more bigger as well. So try and have a chat to your kid about, if they are feeling a bit anxious about returning, what sort of things are worrying them. If it's being in a new class, for example, or, seeing some kids again that maybe they had a bit of trouble with last year, talk to them about what's going on and what's worrying them, and find some ways to address it together. It might be talking to their teacher about how they can settle back into class. It might be talking to some other school people about, how they connect with their friends again. And this is a really good way to again, build resilience for your kids because it teaches them it's okay to talk about what's on their mind, what's worrying them. And you're also coming up with solutions together. So, ways that they can actually deal with that problem. And so, once they get back to school, if they're still sort of feeling those ways, they can still talk to you about what's going on for them. And again, keep problem solving ways that they can adjust.
And Margot, you mentioned this word checking in. Sometimes that's a bit of a buzzword around, parents should check in, teachers check in. What does that actually mean to check in with a kid?
So good question. So it is really just sitting down and saying, hey, how are you feeling? How are you going? Just making sure that you're having that open conversation with your children about what's going on for them. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a sit down, serious conversation. It's really, as it suggests, just kind of seeing what's going on for them and what you can do. So just a really quick chat if it needs to be.
How good. Just some simple ways, four ways to start the school year strong. Margot, thanks so much for sharing with us today about those different strategies that parents can help their kids. And thank you for joining us today at our webinar. And we've got a whole range of resources that you can access at our website, outbackfutures.org.au. Stay tuned to our social media where we'll be promoting more of our webinars and more ways that you can learn about supporting your kids and families throughout this year. So thanks very much for joining us. Take care. We'll see you next time.